children would stop asking, how do they say that dad is dead if nobody had seen him? The children, the wife, have gone through, they were there on October 7th. You can imagine the horrors that they were witnesses to. And the only way that they can recover and move forward is when Tal is back. And now that we're hearing about this deal that hopefully will be signed very soon, for us, this is a very, I would say, joyful peak of these hellish 15 months, to know that some of the people that have become our family will be getting their family members back. But for us, for the three of us, it's just the beginning of the road, because there would be weeks, if not months, until we see our loved ones back home. And we want to be very vocal and to make this very evident. Even if a deal is struck tomorrow, and we hope with all our hearts that it will, this will only end, the war will only end, this conflict will only end, the hostilities will only end, recovery can only begin when the last hostage is back home.
My name is Yotam Cohen. I'm 23, I'm the brother of Nimrod Cohen. Nimrod was an IDF soldier stationed at the southern part of the Israeli-Gazan border, near the two villages, Nirim and Niroz. He was tasked at protecting the civilians, and at the morning of the attack on the 7th of October, he and his teammates, he was a tank crew member, joined forces and went to the border to protect the civilians who by then was already being slaughtered and kidnapped by the Hamas terrorists. Out of the 4 teammates and crew members, only my brother survived that day and managed to stay alive that day, and was kidnapped alive and relatively in good condition into Gaza. We got few life signs from my brother. One of them was some of the hostages who came back on the first hostage deal, claiming they saw him and he was unharmed and walking and in good health. In the past few months, we've got multiple pieces of information from the IDF intelligence that my brother is alive, and we're hoping that he will be returned home alive. We're now on the verge, we're hopefully on the verge of a comprehensive hostage deal to release all the hostages. As far as we know from the rumors, there are going to be 3 phases for the hostage deal. The first one will begin immediately and will result, according to rumors, in the release of 33 hostages, the so-called, and I think it's a problematic phasing, but the so-called humanitarian. We think it's problematic because at this point, after more than a year, after the 7th of October, all the hostages are humanitarians. They're all suffering from several diseases and medical conditions. But my brother, since he's a young male and was a soldier, is going to be released, as far as we know, on the second phase of the hostage deal. And so the 3 of us represent our family members. They're going to be released on the 3 phases, the first, the second, and the third. And so we here united as family members, regardless of the phase in which our loved ones are going to be released, all here united to support a hostage deal, with the understanding that a hostage deal, and like Udi said, the end of the war, is the only way for us to rehabilitate, and for the people of Israel and for the people in Gaza to rebuild and get over the crisis that's currently happening in the Middle East.
Well, just to add a couple of sentences to the opening statement, just to make sure that we're clear about the conditions here. First of all, it has been over a year since the first and only exchange deal, which is far, far too long. So obviously we are all very hopeful that this long period is coming to an end, but it has to be remembered that a lot of time has been wasted, which has put many of the hostages in vital danger. The second point is that if the deal is indeed signed in the next few days, and it still isn't, But even if it is, this is not the end of a process, it's the beginning of a process, the beginning of a gradual process, and there is need for the international community to bear all their pressure and vigilance on all sides concerned, including the mediators and Hamas and the Israeli government, to make sure that this deal goes all the way to the release of the very last hostage.
Thank you, Daniel. I would also ask, as I mentioned in the invitation, that the delegation of families today are meeting with Belgium and European Union officials. That's the purpose of their trip here. So I will start with questions. So please identify yourself at the media. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. I'm Lily Bayer from Reuters. I have two questions for you. The first is, what was your message today to senior EU officials here in Brussels? And the second thing is, what is your message to certain voices within the Israeli government who continue to oppose the hostage deal?
Regarding your first question, there is 23 countries that has hostages in Gaza, with the Israeli double citizens. 23 or 22? I'm sorry if I'm not correct.
Over 20.
Over 20. All over the year, it's look like and I'm Austrian. Okay, I'm Austrian citizen. My son also. It's look like Europe all over the year, and I not complain. I just say it. Sitting on the porch and looking what's happening in Gaza. It's must now. I don't trust now the deal. I don't trust nothing until I see the first hostage release. And indeed, we need Europe to start to be more active in our area. Middle East is a very tough place, and countries there need somebody stronger to finish. Actually, everything start and finish with the hostages. You must remember, everything in the Middle East start and finish with the hostages. Without release all the hostages, nothing will be relaxed in Middle East and Gaza. And imagine that Europe pay millions of dollars or euros to help to Palestinians. And I say again, you have hostages in Gaza, and nobody from Europe can give us any information regarding the situation of our hostages. Red Cross don't want to help us. We have a problem more than a year with Red Cross, and I accept the Europe that they pay and get inside Gaza aid. And the Egyptian cut from every box that you bring inside, they cut a share. And at least any information regarding our hostages. I'm sorry, the second question?
Your message to those voices in the Israeli government who might still oppose.
Very, very, very simple. Now I'm almost sure that it's almost all the government will vote favor this, and if there are few members of this government that don't want, I invite them to put their families and bring my son and bring their families back, and then they can do whatever they want. Enough is enough. It's not logical that our country abandoned soldiers or citizens or wounded or murder hostages. We will not allow. Okay, so really, I tell you the truth. Really, if there is a part of the people in Israel who don't want to do the deal, okay, put their family, his son, his daughter, his wife, whatever they want, and bring our sons, our lovers back.
I would also emphasize regarding your first question, reiterate what Danny had mentioned. Hopefully, we're now entering a deal. But this is only the beginning. And I think that the EU now must become more involved in making sure that it goes through. And it has quite a bit of leverage on the mediators. It has quite a bit of leverage on the day after in Gaza. And now it must put forth its power, its state, to be very vocal about the need to make sure that every single hostage is back, because that is the first domino that would actually begin to create a new regional order that is nonviolent. But everything that is going to happen in the Middle East has to begin with the last hostage coming back, because the Israeli public, and it's not just us, it's not just the families, it's not just the family forum. The Israeli public is so traumatized after these 15 months that in order to conclude this period and be able to move forward, the closure would be with the last hostage coming back, and we will not let anything move forward unless everybody's back home.
Tom, you want to?
No, let's hear more questions and I'll ask on the next one.
Next question? Yes, Alex.
Alexander from Nordic. Just to follow up on the question of my colleague, I understand that you would wish for Europeans to have done, that they have done more. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, I'll answer the question. From what we've been hearing in the past few days, past few hours, the only reason for a hostage deal, the only reason that right now we're on the verge of signing a hostage deal is because of the American pressure put on by the Trump's messenger and Trump's mediator. And we understand, and from what President Biden has claimed, this is the same hostage deal that was put forward or proposed by Netanyahu last May. Meaning the only reason that the hostage deal was not signed is because of inner political conflicts within Israel. And the only reason that right now we are on the verge of receiving our loved ones back is that somebody stood up and rose to the occasion and decided to end this crisis for whatever reason. And I think that the only way for a hostage deal, first of all, to begin, and second of all, for a comprehensive deal to last until every single last hostage is out of Gaza, and so we can end the war and rehabilitate Israel and Gaza, is by external pressure on Israel and on our government. And what we expect, and I, as an Israeli citizen, and as some of us dual citizens, for the European Union to join forces, because we can all conclude and understand and agree that ending the war and releasing the hostages are the two most important objectives for the Western world to focus on, and I think that they both align and are aligning for the past couple of months. And we expect the European Union to join forces with the American to put pressure on both sides, on Hamas side, and it's sad for me to say, on our government, and it relates to the previous question. Some Israeli politicians and some ministers, and some of them has mentioned it specifically today, has managed to torpedo a hostage deal for their political gain. Today they agreed and confessed. And we expect everybody who has the best intention for the hostages and for the people of Israel and for the people in Gaza who wants this conflict to end must put aside any political gain, any political intention, and help the people of Israel, not the government of Israel, the people of Israel and the people in Gaza to finish the crisis.
Yes. Yes. I want to add something regarding your question. For example, I advised as a civilian, not politics, Belgium, invite all the countries, more 20 countries, there's hostages. It's like NATO power. Come to here, sit together in the table, and try to understand what you can do to make the Middle East establish, because this is what the war need, this is what the Middle East need, and this is what Europe need, and probably everybody understand why. So I guess if you sit together with the high level of authorities, and just take the Middle East, just take the Gaza. You know, Gaza don't run nowhere. They stay ever. Okay, they can't throw us to the sea. We can throw them to the sea. So somebody has to need to help to Middle East to be stable place, and rebuild the Gaza. I don't know, works, everything. But I think it's one of the things that Europe need to do, because this your interest, directly your interest.
Yes, please. Question? Yes.
You just touched upon it, but Max Delaney, AFP, Ethnos Press. You just touched upon it, but you spoke about there being this is the first time when you've had the hope of a deal, and hopes have been shattered in the past. Why do you think now is different from before? And can you talk about how much the families are kept in the loop about these negotiations and things by the government in Israel? How much do you know? Because you talk a lot about reports, but it seems like you're just...
So in the general sense, as families, we're in the dark. We're not being informed on any ongoing negotiations or any breakthroughs. Everything we know comes from the media, from Twitter, from the major broadcasting channels in Israel. The distrust between the families and the government officials is so vast that we simply cannot understand the word they're saying. Personally, me and my families, we basically cut all the channels between us and the government, because we understand that there is deceiving us and stalling. For the past few months, ever since I think the first hostage deal, we've been getting on and off about a hostage deal. Some may say it's an emotional roller coaster. Every couple of months, every couple of weeks, we're being informed, and it's posted on the news, we're on the verge of a hostage deal. There are positive developments for a hostage deal, and we raise our expectations, and then we're disappointed. I think that the majority of the families at this point, we simply do not allow ourselves to get excited and to hope, and we're simply stuck in an automatic, I think, motion to simply continue our work. Go on delegation, protest, speak on the Knesset, simply do whatever we can regardless of the development. Regardless if the news is saying we're on the verge of the hostage deal or there are negative developments, for us it's all the same. I think it's like either there is or there isn't, on and off. There's nothing in between. Either my brother is at captivity or he is at home. Regardless, the first part, what has changed? I think I said it before, Trump. I think he's the joker. I think he's the main player in this new field. I think that the previous or the current American regime the Biden administration was unable or didn't want enough to finish the crisis. I simply cannot think about any other explanation. I think Bibi, our prime minister, is afraid of Trump. I think Trump has all the cards. I think he has the influence. I think he has the intention. I think he has the power to end this crisis. I think he doesn't want to be involved in the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. He wants his presidency to be focused on other notions other than what is going on in the Middle East. I think he understands that Bibi is stalling and lying, and I think he simply has decided that enough is enough, which is something that should have been done few months before. I think too many people and too many world leaders should have done this before, and we have pleaded and begged for people to do so, and unfortunately it didn't happen, and hopefully it will happen. And I think and it's weird for me to say that the only reason that Israeli civilians and Israeli citizens are going to be released and are going to be saved, and the only reason that soldiers are going to stop dying and Gazans are going to stop dying, is because of the upcoming American president and not because of the Israeli ministers. And we are all of us, regardless of our political view, whether right or left-wingers, we are all looking up for President Trump, and we're hoping that he will bring our salvation, and hopefully he will put enough pressure. And like I said before, hopefully the international community and world leaders will join together and come up, both the mediators and the Israeli government and Hamas representative, and tell them once and for all, enough is enough. This could have ended before, this can and should end now, and hopefully in 2 months from now, and I think it's possible if enough people want so, in 2 months from now, 98 hostages can be at home. Some reunite with their families, some receive a proper burial in Israel, and I think that we can rebuild and rehabilitate both Israel and Gaza and start a new day.
I will add another layer of complexity in terms of the change of what brought about this this agreement. I think at the end of the day, there's something very important that we must remember. We are Israeli citizens. I didn't vote for Hamas. I'm not planning on voting for them the next time either. And they are a terrorist organization, and I have no expectations of them aside from playing the role of a terrorist organization. And I want to remind everyone in this room that October 7th began with crimes against humanity that put the Nazis to shame. And this is the organization that has been on the other side of the negotiation for these past 15 months. And I think that Trump has certainly changed the way things are, because if I refer to what Blinken said just recently, the way the war was ran, that on the one hand, Israel kept getting weapons to run the war and put military pressure, but on the other hand, the Americans kept having Israel send the humanitarian aid into Gaza, which we fully know goes to the hands of Hamas, in a way that was putting the war in this standstill that would just not budge. And at this point, with the threat of President Trump and the possible implications, with Hamas being completely run down, it's no longer a military, it no longer has a functioning military, it's a guerrilla organization now, and the fact that it's fractured, then that brought about a prominent move within the negotiations, and this is what we hear, including criticism of the US over Qatar and so forth. Many things have shifted, and as Yotam had mentioned, Trump has made it very clear to our government, the time is up. There's nothing more we can gain in Gaza, and therefore this is the right thing to do. Aside from that, I want to refer to your first question about how much we're informed, and it's true, there's definitely lack of trust, but on the other hand, this is such a sensitive matter that there is very limited possibility for the government officials to let us know what's happening within the negotiations themselves. At the end of the day, again, on the other side, there's a terrorist organization, and when we run a negotiation that should have been held and should have been dealt much, much better. We should have been at this point much earlier in time, but in order to run an efficient negotiation, we've got to keep our cards close to our chest. And therefore, and this is another layer of complexity, notwithstanding what Yotam had said, we wished we would have been better informed along the way. I am a part of the management forum within the Families Forum, and one of our missions within the management has been to keep an open line with the government officials so we can deliver the information faster, sooner, and more accurately to the families.
Question? Yeah.
Javier Villamor about the signal. Mr. Hornbow spoke about before the European Union. What do you expect from the Action Commission, and what do you think is holding a direct and a strong answer from Brussels?
I think we've just discussed this. First of all, I think we all think, and I believe this is what Gilad has mentioned, we want to see initiative. We want to see the officials. Yes, I'm sorry.
Can you be more precise?
What kind of a part of?
It's just dividing into blogs, like more pro-Palestine, it's saying more pro-Israel.
You know what? You know what? I want to first approach this terminology. When you no, please. I'm actually glad you brought this about. If you use the terminology of being pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, you're completely missing the point. It's not to you. It's for the general discourse within Europe. If you're pro-Palestinian and you don't believe that I have the right to live freely and safely in Israel and have the right to bury my cousin in Israel, then you are not pro-Palestinian, you're pro-conflict. And if you think that Gaza should keep being bombed and we shouldn't take care of the Gazan civilians who are suffering tremendously, you're not pro-Israeli, you're pro-conflict. And there are only two sides to this conflict. You're either pro-conflict or pro-resolution. And that's the right terminology that we should use. And I want to see the EU be far more outspoken about being pro-resolution. And I want to see the Israeli public hear from the Europeans. Here are the ways that we can help you resolve this conflict. Here are the ways that we can aid in making the day after better. Here, one example, we will be a governing body over every supply that goes to Gaza, and we will make sure that every sack of cement that goes into Gaza goes into building buildings for civilians and not tunnels to keep hostages in. That's one example. You've helped in the past, and hopefully you will help in the future as well to make sure that the Rafah crossing does not have any smuggling of arms and weapons and things that are used by the terrorist organization Hamas against Israel. That's another thing. You have huge leverage with the funding that you give to UNRWA. You can make sure that UNRWA is used for de-radicalization, not for nurturing and culturing terrorism against Israel. 3 examples that I've just pulled. We can sit side by side and I can give you plenty more. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of money, a lot of resources, and with that comes great responsibility and great leverage. And you can use it to make the future of this region better.
Thank you, Yosin. Mustafa Gautas Times. First of all, I'd like to ask a question about what do you think about the importance of those video films we've seen from time to time during these 50 months which Hamas has sent to Israel? And you got the impression, look at them and following them, that sometimes the families themselves have been reluctant, let's say, to publish them on television. And sometimes they didn't get them so quickly from the authorities. But everyone who looked at them, they were much influenced by them, and we could have, I think, influenced the opinion maybe for a deal much quicker. What is your opinion about that, the handling of those films? And another more question, of course, you mentioned the role of next President Trump in the United States, but and they put a lot of pressure, of course, from the government in Israel. But what about the changes in the geopolitical situation in the Middle East? The defeat of Hezbollah and what happened in the fall of Assad regime, everything that, I suppose that also has perhaps changed the Hamas calculations, so perhaps willingness to agree to a deal. What's this?
Regarding the videos that Hamas releases of the hostages, you have to keep in mind that when a video of, let's say, the last one of Liri Elbag, which only 2 frames out of it were released to the media, you've got to remember that on the other side, there are parents and siblings and family members that see their loved ones maybe for the first time in months, or maybe for the first time at all since October 7th. They see them alive, they see them obviously unhealthy, and they know them best. So they can look at the video and acknowledge the suffering and the penetration of privacy and how this would affect them and their surroundings. Now, obviously, you've got to think on both hats, meaning, why is Hamas sending these videos? Because he wants to pain us. He wants us to go out and say to the Israeli government, okay, stop everything. Go out and protest. And they actually make them say it. So on the one hand, of course, we want to see a deal the release of all hostages, and this would also be concluded with the end of the war. However, we don't want to do it on Hamas's terms. We want to do it in the terms that are good for us and that have guarantees that we can go all the way through with this deal to make sure that the very last hostage is released. So in a way, we don't want to play into their hands. At the end of the day, this is psychological warfare, which is meant to hurt us.
I think regarding your second question, regarding, I think any conceivable future for the Middle East, any resolution, any hope for a future, it all begins with ending the war and the hostage deal, like I said before. All the crises, all the ongoing fronts that Israel is facing right now, in the north with Hezbollah, with the Houthis, Iran, all of this erupted on the 7th of October when the hostages were taken and when Hamas has invaded Israel. And regarding Trump's vision for the Middle East, or the international vision for the Middle East, so-called the day after, or Trump has stated multiple times that he aspires for a peace and I think it was said also Palestinian state. But regardless of what you're aspiring towards, Palestinian state, long-lasting peace agreements between Israel and the Palestinians, or simply peace or quiet in the region, everything and every dream or vision starts with ending the war and bringing the hostages back, which should and will come together. And I think that right now Trump is focusing on this part. And I think that if he does manage, and if we do manage to achieve this, we can start to rebuild and go forward from this on.
If I may just to refocus, just make sure that we understand. These three people on October 6, 2023 had absolutely nothing to do with politics or geopolitics. What brought them together is the tragic event of October 7th that took loved ones from them. And here they are, and in front of a very impressive battery of cameras, you expect them to give you a geopolitical prognosis for the Middle East. Of course, we all have our thoughts about this, but I think we should really focus on the personal experience and on the experience of the hostage community, the hostage family community in general. It won't be in their hands not to predict and not to shape the future of the Middle East.
We have time for two questions.
Can I ask one?
Okay.
Thanks.
Maybe.
Do you want to go first? Okay. I'll go
first.
Okay. Eddie Wax from Politico. In that vein, do you feel you've had real support from European leaders? I saw Kaya Kallas just tweeted that the hostages must be released unconditionally. I mean, if we have a deal, that will not be unconditional. So do you feel like the European leaders have been giving more words, or have they been giving more actions in terms of supporting to you? And the second question,
that's for you.
About the mood towards Israel in Europe. When you visit Europe, do you feel that this is, with so many protests going on, to end the war, do you feel like this is a hostile environment towards Israel? Europe has become over the last, over a year?
Well, actually I travel a lot to Europe. Yes, when we meet the authorities in all over Europe, it's looked like the positive of the hostages case. But again, empathic and say that they are with us and stay on the porch, and look on the Middle East from high. And I want to tell you something. I was meeting with three. I don't want to say what country. Last week, and then they asked him what you want to us to do. It's an amazing question. I mean, a year ago I was sitting in my kibbutz. I work. I don't have any idea about politics. and I say, like I say, bring all the people to your country, sit together, and get a decision what to do. You have the power. This is amazing. You have all the power to change everything, okay? And the worst thing, it's, I want to tell you, it's 100 years ago, a lot of countries tell Jewish go outside. And 70, 80 years ago, again, and those countries give back the citizen. Okay, I get citizen for Austrian. Okay, my mother born in Vienna. Okay, and a lot of Israelis as foreign citizen, European. So it's your hostages. It's your hostages. It's not something that you give me a passport or give me a citizen and then you abandon me. You're supposed to be part of the negotiation. You support if you like Israel government or no. As a friend, you must to direct Israel and Egypt and Qatar, yes, to sit negotiation table and force them to do a deal. Because you must understand nothing will move and nothing will end in the Middle East without the hostages. It's not possible. It's not possible. So from now on, you just need to keep that the deal will go on and nobody can destroy the opportunity to release all the hostages. It's your duty. It's your hostages. You must to be interested to do and finish this.
Chantal and Vincent. Chantal?
Chantal from RTL Television. I have a question. It's not about geopolitics, but nation spirit. Would you say that the Israelis are as united as on October the 7th?
Unfortunately, I think that time has taken its toll. First of all, Israelis are exhausted, are absolutely exhausted. We've been in this war for 15 months on 2 or 7 fronts, depending how you count. And I think that this, as we keep mentioning, this is the first domino stone to heal the entire nation. And I think that the more the war progressed, then, people are people. They go back trying to normalize life. People are eager to have a normal life. And also people going back to their beliefs, to their habits. Politics has gone back to what it was in many ways. But the one thing that has completely changed in Israeli society from day one of the war till now is that if at day one people were extremely concerned about safety and security and on the need to get rid of Hamas, most people of Israel, and we're now talking about 80% if not more, realize that at this point in time, Hamas does no longer pose an existential threat to Israel, and there is nothing more important than bringing back the hostages. And this is, I would say, the one issue in Israeli society that has been the closest to a consensus since Israel was founded.
Vincent, for the last question.
And you told us last year in Tel Aviv that you had some no help from the Red Cross, from the NGO like Amnesty. Is there some improvement this last month? Or?
It's a very simple answer. The answer is no.
Do you know why?
I'm probably not the right person to ask, but I can tell you that in general, international organizations, both governmental and non-governmental, have performed very poorly on behalf of the hostage situation. There are exceptions, obviously, but the Red Cross, if there is a humanitarian crisis of a kind that the Red Cross should be very present in its resolution, it's a hostage-taking situation. And for 15 months they were, I'm not saying able to access the hostages, even to get a reliable list of the hostages and their condition. So there may be very good reasons, and in the end of the day it's not the Red Cross to be blamed but Hamas, but for the families of the hostages, it's simply a complete failure to their mission. And other international organizations have less real possibility to help here. But even verbally, there was a tweet yesterday from the chairperson or the director of UNICEF. I think it's the first or second time that they have spoken up. Even on International Children's Day, they didn't feel that there was a reason to speak about children who are held captive in tunnels in Gaza. So expectations are low, and that is the only way not to be disappointed.
Thank you so much for this briefing, and we'll, for those who request, we'll do interviews. Please let us know.
Could you write your name and who the family are, please?
Could I just stay for Belgian press? Is it possible to do a one-on-one interview with you?
Sure.
And I'll ask.
Yotam.
That's possible.
I'm going to ask you to write your name and your family name reference there because
sure.
I'm number 3.
My name is Stefan.
Hi.
Belgian. That's nice. Nice to meet you. No problem. Is it possible to do a one-on-one interview?
Sure. Well done, thank you. And I'm going to ask you, who's your family?
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
It's just not clear, and I don't want to make any mistakes. That's really important for us.
The new high representative.
תודה רבה, היה ממש מעניין.
Could you do the same for
Yes,
me,
of course.
please? Your name and the name of your family.
היית כאן שנה שעברה? לצערנו לא יותר מדי השתנה, אבל אולי היום. עשיתי לך את המספר טלפון שלי.
תודה.
כן, אבל אתה בטח מכיר את זה.
Sorry about this, but... Okay, I didn't want to make any mistakes, so good luck for the...
Thank you.
לא, לא חושבת, אבל אתם מכירים ברויטרס בישראל. יופי, אז יש לכם מי לדבר שם, הכי חשוב.
Name and your organisation, I would appreciate it because I don't want to make any mistakes.
Sure. I think there's one person waiting.
By the way, I follow your stuff. This way.
That would be useful. Maybe I can take a photo.
Take a photograph of it.
It's like a floor plan.
May I ask you one question?
Yes, of course.
Your turn is the younger group.
Yes. Your tongue. Yes.
Do you want to take a photograph of it? Oslo.